Hey everyone, Kevin from ConvertLabs here, and today we have Chris from Double Time Cleaning in Dallas, Texas. What's up, Chris?
Hey, how's it going? And thanks for having me on here. We definitely had some great conversations over time, and I'm excited.
Yeah, I just did your podcast on the BizRise effect, and I thought you'd be a great guest to have on here. So thanks a lot for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of wanted to chat a little bit about cleaning business. I mean, you've been in there for how long have you had a cleaning business for?
So I have two dates that I tell people.
Uh,
We were incorporated in February 2021, but only a couple months in, I suffered a massive heart attack. So I had to get postponed until I've healed. When I tell people that my official actual start time was more of August 2021. So
yeah,
it's 2026 now, middle of the year. So you can kind of like take your pick on what you consider to be a real start. So
yeah. I'm glad you're feeling a lot better, man.
thanks.
Yeah, I mean, like, why a cleaning business? Is there any particular reason why you decided to start one?
So still am, but now my child is an adult, so she's always gonna be my baby. But I had sole custody of my daughter, and I was in aviation. And when everything with COVID happened, I just knew that there was gonna be layoffs. At one point I was management. We used to monitor what happened in the government, and so I was like, "Oh no!" It's like I can't just get up and move around. I have my daughter. I can't just have her move to school,
Yeah,
across the country because that's what I was doing when I was in aviation. I was a contractor. We went around wherever Boeing or Northrop Grumman and be like, "Hey, we need you here to help." It's like, "Okay, I got you. I'll go." So I looked for something that had low startup capital. Check. I mean, you could start the entire thing with less than $500,
yeah,
and where it wouldn't require me to recruit specialized skilled groups. And not that I'm saying that cleaners aren't a special skill. I mean, attention to detail is far more lucrative than people might think, especially after having been in this experience in this business. But I was talking about like I didn't want to, have like a plumbing business. Number one, I'm not a plumber. Number two, the people I have to recruit have to be licensed, and I have to go through all these things and have all that type of experience. So I needed the recruiting to be relatively easier, and something that can survive basically any economy. Nature does not stop making things dirty.
yeah.
You can be the biggest clean freak in the world and still end up with a dirty house, if you don't have it clean. The same thing with commercial buildings and places like that. So, economic proof. Now, business might slow down, but there's always someone needing a cleaner, no matter what. And COVID proved that. Yeah, some businesses went down when they couldn't pivot, to the scape of how everything was. But cleaners were actually one of the essential workers groups. During COVID, and I was just kind of like, okay, this is perfect. So the original thing that was supposed to happen was that I was originally supposed to franchise someone out of Houston, and on my very last day of work, when I gave her a call and I was like, hey, I'm ready to come down to start my training, and see how the business is run and expand it here in Dallas, and she disappeared. It was like the day
So,
I walked out.
so were you
And
looking to buy into a franchise?
no, I was actually gonna expand her operation.
Okay.
I just wanted to learn from someone that was already making, I think at the time was like 7 or 800,000 a year in revenue at that, for her. And, I was like, just duplicate what she was doing, here. And, obviously give her the franchise fee or whatever that, it's like, man, this is better than any college education.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, she disappeared. Later got in touch. There were some personal reasons that happened behind that. A lot of stuff that I really couldn't blame her for, but it was just kind of like I wish she would have told me, but it didn't matter. It forced me into just went and took a deep dive into YouTube University. And I always refined like systems and processes, especially when I was in management and when I was in aviation. Well, essentially, I went backwards. I didn't go out and become a cleaner. I wasn't cleaning a damn thing for a while. And when I did, it was just to help my team because we just started growing more and more faster than we could recruit for before I learned how to recruit properly. And I basically set things up to how a large business would have it. And at the time it was formerly launched 27. So I was like, okay, this is perfect. I need to have this kind of software. I need to have these kinds of operating procedures. I mean, here I am never having owned a business creating standard operating procedures. and a handbook, or should I say a suggested book, because I was hiring 1099 at the time, so I couldn't call it a handbook. And I just kind of built the framework before I even got my first clean or cleaner. That all just it was easy to me. I just took every question on like what I would do to delegate myself so that I'm not stuck being a glorified manager, and just be a business owner so that I don't have to work in the business but on the business. That was the entire goal from day one. And it worked pretty well. I mean, that's how we were able to, like, while my cleaners were out there doing the job, I was out there marketing, I was out there going to network events and working on the business. And that's how we were able to grow so fast.
That's great. And so you mentioned that you used to have contractors. Are you now all employees?
It's a mixed.
I was actually just speaking to somebody who's also in Texas, and she was basically saying she prefers employees. And it's funny because we were just having a discussion with like California and how it's just so cost prohibitive to have employees out here with like workers' comp and taxes and everything. But
Yes.
yeah, you're in Texas, so it's a lot different back over there.
Yeah, and I'm 50-50 on it.
Yeah.
Obviously both have advantages and disadvantages. W-2s, you can tell them whatever you want and they have to abide by it. It's like you don't have control over 1099s, or contractors. So even if they're whether I have nicknames for them, whether they're external contractors, which is not directly affiliated with your team, where basically it's something like Home Aglow, you
Uh-huh.
know, and then you got the ones that really get involved with the team communication. But yeah, I'm totally 50-50 on it. W-2s, you have, if you tell them it's like, I need you to wear a double time shirt, they'll wear a double time shirt. You have to.
Yeah.
But if a 1099, if you tell them it's like, I need you to wear a double time shirt, they're gonna laugh in your face, and they have every right to. There are some ways that you can. I'm not gonna say get around that. I'm gonna sound like I'm trying to break the law or something. But I offer free T-shirts, and I don't make them wear it. I'm like, this is just kind of like a pride thing. It's like if I wear a Steelers jersey, it doesn't mean that I'm playing for the Steelers, So
Yeah.
like, here's a double time shirt. I don't care what you do with it. It's just a little branding, and they end up choosing to wear this so that they don't get their own personal clothes dirty. It's like, this is a free shirt,
Yeah.
so it kind of helps. So there's little things like that. When it comes to like equipment, I would prefer that everyone uses something that's HEPA filtered. 1099s, I can't tell them what to use. However, for the ones that want to do a good job, are dedicated to doing a good job, and they want the right equipment, I actually offer to rent it. So I always have backups here, and this is really for me and my direct team. I don't clean anymore, but back when I was helping, I mean, shark vacuums were just great. I mean, we've tested some of the more expensive ones, and it just didn't seem worth it. It's a personal preference. They last a long time when they're maintained versus having, one of the rainbow ones that are awesome, but number one, very heavy. Number two, very expensive, and regardless, it still needs maintenance. And anyways, I digress. But with 1099s, if you offer to, it's like, hey, I have 5 vacuums here. If you want to rent one, go for it. Just $5 deposit, and you just go for it. So,
Yeah.
and 9 times out of 10, they'd rather use the good vacuum where they only have to do like one sweep versus their $40 Bissell that they got at Walmart, where they have to go over it and over it. They're, making their jobs harder. So it's like, hey, but, by all means, so that's just kind of an example. It's not trying to get around it, but at least giving them the option to do so. And a lot of the times, if it benefits them and it makes their job easy, makes their job faster, because at the end of the day, they're paid by the job. The 1099s are, so when they're paid by the job, it's like, okay, do I want to spend an hour vacuuming, where my
Right.
percentage equals to $10 an hour, versus me being in the same house for a much less amount of time, where it equates not to $30 per hour because it's per job. It's from the time it takes to, for them to do the job to, it just helps everybody in overall. Everybody wins.
Where do you keep the equipment? Do they pick it up
So
from like a storage locker or somewhere?
no, we drop ship everything now. Everything
Okay.
used to be in my garage, and I had at first it was like one little corner and it had one shelf. I gotta find a picture of it of the little humble beginnings. It was like one shark vacuum, these plastic tray buckets. It was so horrible. It was just so bad. And so now we have a kit. The kit has their sow suds because it's organic and basically all their cleaning needs. And now whenever they need a refill, All they have to do is just place an order with our admin. We log what they're ordering, so they're not taking advantage. Like, okay, if you guys, a bottle of salsa is good for 100 cleans.
Uh,
If you run out after 20 cleans, then you're using it for something else. Like,
yeah.
can't just take advantage of something like that. They never do. I mean, my team has just been phenomenal. They're not really stealing supplies. If anything, they actually ask permission. Even the ones that just rented it from me, I'm like, look, I don't care. You do whatever you want. Just when you bring it back, just at least take care of it. But in any case, yeah, we just drop ship it to them. They order it, and we have a whole list of everyone's addresses, and they get the refills right then and there, or right
Yeah.
at home.
So if we could talk about hiring for a little bit, because I know a lot of people struggle with this. Where are you finding your contractors and employees? Are they in different places or are they at the same? If you could just talk a little bit about like where you're finding people and maybe a little bit of your vetting process.
Nowadays, we go off of referrals, and it's worked out so much better. But first, you got to build a base. First you have to have your initial team, and then you ask for referrals. Now, I can tell you right now, ZipRecruiter has been our biggest, where we got the most amount of people. We ended up having a little over 800 applicants through ZipRecruiter within, I think, I want to say 2 months. And it's just this ad. It's the same ad we just copy paste into ZipRecruiter. And I wanted to see if it worked. So the last time somebody asked me, it's like, hey, what do you use? It's like, well, I gave it to them for free. As I try this, you can get ZipRecruiter for 3 days. She basically copied what I had, pasted it on there, put her own company and all that. And in 3 days, she had 40 applicants to go through. It's just like, okay, it works. Another way is most major metropolitan areas, Dallas, Houston, Los Angeles, they always have like a jobs group. Here it's like there's Dallas jobs, DFW jobs on Facebook. That in itself is a pool of people. At first, I was putting in way too much detail. It's like this is the pay. This is what you'll be working. I mean, the thing was probably 2 paragraphs long. I mean, not huge, but in an overly amount of information. But it was, and I wasn't really getting anyone with those. I was like, man, it's like that's crazy. So I condensed it. I guess people's attention span are very short.
Yeah.
If you can't get it in within the first 2 lines, you're probably not going to get their attention. So I was like, all right, how do I condense it? All right, people want to be paid weekly. They don't want this bi-weekly stuff. So the first thing that I put was paid weekly. That's it. you know, well, I'm sorry, not that's it, but paid weekly can earn up to this amount of money. I think I had it at the time it was like $800. Can potential to earn $800 a week cleaning homes, no experience required. I did not even put the must pass background check because
Mhm.
even people that have like a slight misdemeanor are going to get turned off from it. We do background checks. There are a lot of things that a lot of employers would look for and completely dismiss someone. Not really so much for me.
Yeah.
The main things that we look for is theft, violence, fraud.
Yeah.
A lot of some of the obvious ones, like, I don't know, murder.
Yeah.
you
If
know?
it's like one DUI from like 5 years ago, it's like, okay, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And I've had that. There's some that were concerned because they had what was it? The moving violation, the reckless driving. And I was like, man, the way cops write tickets these days, if they like glanced down at something that they dropped and they swerved a little, hey, that's a reckless driving. And I was like, no, you're fine. And a lot of times I do still want to hear, the story behind it before I make the decision.
Mhm.
There are some instances, like there was a gentleman that approached me. He wanted the job and he was open about it without me having to run his background check. It's like, I have a theft charge. I was like, all right, tell me about it. The guy was 40 years old or 40 something. I forgot the exact amount. And he says, but man, this was back in my early 20s. I was young, dumb, and everything. I could not overlook it. It's like this, the fact that you have one, if anything happens and, the client asked me, don't you background check your people? And it turns
Yeah.
out that, yeah, he does
I
have a theft.
did, and he had a theft on his record.
Yeah, and I knowingly hired him.
Yeah.
It's just like, some of those things I just can't, for liability purposes. So if they got caught smoking marijuana, it's like, man, most of the places is illegal. Frankly, I don't care what somebody does when they're at home. It's just,
Yeah.
it's so insane. how sensitive the law can be, towards them. And I was just like, just tell me the story. If you had some in your console and they pulled you over, really, I don't care, you
Yeah.
know. So just like I don't care if you had an open container in, on I don't know, a bottle that was closed up that you're transporting from a barbecue back home, then I'm not gonna worry about it. It's,
Yeah.
oh yeah, probably gonna sound absolutely terrible. Damn, Chris hires criminals.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think the time too matters. Like if it was like 2 months ago, I'd be like, okay, do they have a problem? Because like
Yeah.
I literally had a nightmare scenario where I had a cleaner. I picked them up. I went to go meet them in person and give them a check after like they were working for me all day, and they were like drinking. They had big gulps and they had alcohol in it, and like I could tell that they were drinking, and I didn't know if they were drinking before or whatever, but I was like, okay, you know, got to be careful because some people do have addiction problems, and
Yes.
it's not that people can't overcome those, but you just have to be wary. And especially if it's a very recent, substance thing, you got to be careful of that. But
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And all the examples that I'm giving are stuff
yeah,
that was like years and years ago. One girl had even gone to rehab already,
yeah,
and went there, passed, they got out. They cleaned themselves up
I
and
got straight
everything.
A's.
So yeah. Yeah, if anything, it's like, man, I even remind him, it's like, "Hey, man, I just wanna tell you, like, how proud I am of you." Like, I do that a lot of that positive reinforcement. That's become part of the core culture in my company, was positive reinforcement, reminding us like, "Man, you've come such a long way, like, what a great job," you know? And, but yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that because I also had a cleaner where I walked in I was actually delivering supplies to her. And what not even find, it was literally, like, on top of all her stuff in her bag. Oh, what's that called? It's that alcoholic tea, Twisted Tea, I think,
Okay,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, just a bright yellow can right there on the top. I was like, "What is that?" It's just like, "Oh, well, I didn't drink any." I was like, "Well, why the hell is it in your bag and not just, like, in your car, in your trunk?" Like, "No, but, I'm just gonna have it later." I was like, "Oh my god." Yeah, unfortunately, that one had to, we had to kinda remove her. So, but,
It kind of reminds me a little bit of like if you have like a heavy machine operator, you would never allow them to have a twisted tea, right?
right.
For liability issues. And you might not think that cleaning is dangerous, but like imagine if they're in a client's home and they're getting on stairs or a chair or something and like you know what I mean? Like you just don't know how much you're opening yourself up to liability. So my point is that like it's almost as big of a deal as like anything else, like heavy machine operating or something where you can't have any tolerance obviously for like somebody being impaired in someone else's home.
Oh, yeah. No,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. Oh, one thing that I did kind of fail to mention about the, recruiting, again, with the two-liners, if you're gonna use social media, those work the best. I was
Mhm.
flooded with people, asking about the job versus when I had 2 paragraphs that were a lot more detailed,
Yeah.
I got next to none. It's crazy. Now with the referral system, what I did is I took my strongest cleaners, the ones that had the great work ethic and everything. And then I kind of figured it's like, well, birds of a feather. It's the same like when I was recruiting for aviation, I would actually ask a good mechanic. It's like, hey, do you have any friends that want to come down here that would trust working? And he's like, man, I know this badass mechanic. I was like, oh, well, let's bring it in. So
Mhm.
once I started identifying, who my strongest cleaners were, that's when I asked the question. I started receiving almost nothing but incredible cleaners that had
Yeah.
similar work ethics, attention to detail, just by using that one strategy. Right now, we actually have a bit of a wait list. One of our well, she's not as recent anymore. It's July. She got brought in February. She waited a year. Like she
Wow.
originally put in a year ago. And, she was working like, small jobs, low paying jobs and, elsewhere in the area. And we're like, "Hey, do you wanna come?" She's like, "Yeah, oh man, I've been waiting for that call." She was so excited to start. So yeah, so the reputation that my company has isn't just the quality of our work for our clients, but also the quality of working for us. It's like
Right.
we definitely upcharge and we trying to deter working on holidays. We tell our clients straight up, it's like, we would rather have our cleaners. We actually don't want to make money off of you on holidays. We would rather have our cleaners stay home with their families. Like, I'm dead serious. Like Christmas, I don't want my cleaners out there. There's been times where I was tempted because 1.5 times the charge, some of them were still not deterred. I've contemplated on just tripling it.
Yeah.
It's like, we don't want to have to do this. I mean, some of the cleaners, they did tell me it's like, I could use the extra money, especially for Christmas, and things like that. And I was like, okay, all right, I get it. We'll leave it in place and make it attractive or whatnot. But if you're gonna take, I don't want to say force, need us to come out there during a time like 4th of July, Easter, things like that, then it has to be worth it. So especially like imagine the cleaning industry is predominantly female. There's a lot of
Mhm.
single moms. So
Yeah, I mean,
but
I had some cleaners that prefer to work Sundays. Like, they didn't wanna work, like, Monday, Tuesday, or whatever, for example, but they were like, "I would actually like to work on Saturdays and Sundays." And, sometimes you get clients that, they kinda want somebody to come on a Sunday. Rare, but, it does happen. So, yeah, I was always flexible like that too, but, yeah, for holidays, I was always just kinda like, we would do it sometimes, but especially if the cleaners really wanted it. Otherwise, it's like, yeah.
Sundays are our number one busiest day
Really?
without fail. Yes. Well, because we do mostly Airbnbs. So most of the
Ah,
checkouts are Sundays. Our second
okay.
heaviest day are Mondays. Those that don't want to get into the traffic, of Sunday checkouts with the flights and everything. And
Yeah.
but Sundays and Mondays are our heaviest days. Matter of fact, when we recruit, we bring someone in. We first thing that we ask, because people go to church. First thing we ask them is like, "Will you be available on Sundays?"
Mhm.
If they say no, chances are that we just can't bring them in. But
Have you used our ConvertLabs integration for Airbnbs yet?
no, we haven't tried it.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. It's just it's one of those things that I put it on the back burner. I really need to bring that up. So,
Yeah.
simply because as you know, I don't really work in the business anymore. I've pretty much retired myself. I just basically collect. Everything gets sent to the accountant for the taxes. I have a general manager that runs everything. For those that don't, of course, you don't. If you don't know me, I continuously suffered heart problems. I spent an entire year having to go through recovery, downfall, and right now I'm in hopefully a permanent recovery. But don't worry, everyone. I'm doing great. So, got the pacemaker put in. It's keeping me going, so I'm not doing anything bad. And but anyways, but no, the company ran completely without me. I
Mhm.
got hospitalized 5 or 6 times last year. It's definitely been a journey, for sure. But
Yeah. I guess if we could, like, round out a little bit of the hiring portion of it.
sure.
So you get these applicants that come in. What's your filtering process? Writing a background check? Do you do a test clean at all?
Yes, actually, okay, good question, because there's 2 types. You got the ones that are direct team members, and then you got your 1099s. So your 1099s, for our 1099s, we actually give them a quiz. It's on Jot form, and it asks questions that, and I'm not gonna leak out my my secret,
Yeah.
my questions. I'll do one though. When it comes to cleaning, what is the primary surface that a pumice stone can clean? And for anyone that's been cleaning for years, they know that pumice stones are predominantly known to clean toilet bowls or anything that's ceramic. That's just a classic example. There's some other ones that are kind of like a little obvious, like, Clorox with ammonia. And it's basically do it or
Yeah.
don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like one of the answers is creates a stronger cleaning solvent. No, it's mustard gas. Was it mustard gas? I
It's
forgot.
something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So, and there are some kind of like obvious questions, and they have to score basically a 90%. It's a little bit high tiered, but some of those questions are kind of like no brainers, and some of them really determine this, like, are you a real cleaner, or are you just somebody that just kind of does fabuloso around your house and call yourself a cleaner? For our direct team members, they don't go through a test. They go through a background check, basic interview questions. Matter of fact, I refined it with ChatGPT. So realistically, you can go on ChatGPT and have one created to your liking. We kind of ask some of the very basic ones that are commonly known. How was it with your last employer? Things like that. What's your strongest attribute? Or whatnot. And because the real test doesn't come from your resume. I can write a resume all day long and be the crappiest cleaner in the world, but I'm gonna look stellar on paper. Matter of fact, I know how to talk to people, so I'm gonna be stellar on an interview. but
Uh-huh.
I'm going to be the crappiest cleaner in the world. We have a 2-week period, and this is just like how, most jobs have like a 90-day probation. They don't even receive their full pay. They start at a very low pay. It's not very ideal, but it's realistically, and if my cleaners end up seeing this, they're gonna kind of gonna be like, "Oh, really?" It's an extended interview. It's an extended on the job interview. That's what the training truly is
Mm.
behind the scenes. And it lets us know, are you going to show up on time? Are you paying attention to detail? Can you learn the process within a couple of weeks? The process is not difficult. Take timestamped photos, things like that. For Airbnbs, we don't do that with the residentials for privacy reasons, but things like that. Sometimes they don't make it. They don't make it the full 2 weeks, and either they were showing up on time. We've had this lady already try to take, and she passed her background check. She had a clean background, just means they weren't caught. So,
Yeah.
but, and then a guest left, an item, and, she had her trainer with her, which was our team lead, and she was like, "Hey, this is a great case, and it's the exact one for my phone. What are the chances?" She's like, "Alright, well, we gotta report it to the owner, to the Airbnb owner, so that she can let the guest know, 'Hey, you left your case.'" An hour later, she had that case on her phone. And she's like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "Oh, no, I'm gonna take it home." So she was like, "I just told you this has to happen." She's like, "Oh, yeah, if it's just a case, it doesn't matter if it's just a case or if it's a Rolex.
Yeah.
It's still not your stuff." So, it's these kinds of things, or a cleaner shows up like really late. You only have a window of opportunity to finish, and especially an Airbnb clean that has a same day check-in, to do so. At the end of 2 weeks, they quote unquote graduate. They do a graduation clean. And that's where we leave them alone. Like they use a senior cleaner's items, and we have tier levels in ours. We got our GM, team lead, senior cleaners, regular cleaners, trainees. They have to basically check off, and I know it's kind of high, but they have to get 100%. So if it's something where like, oh man, they missed a hair on a sink, we're not that bad,
Uh-huh.
but did they follow the checklist? Did they take the time, their correct timestamp photos, the lockout video? Did they know how to access our folder that shows what the house is supposed to look like? We have an entire system. And at the end of the day, when the senior cleaner, GM, or team lead walks around, did they pass? Is it something that a guest is not going to have a complaint on, or at the very least be extremely minimal? If they don't, and we feel that we're confident, it's like, maybe they just need to go through it for a little bit longer. And we ask them, it's like, do you want to continue going, or do you want to just call it quits? Well, they always want to keep going, but until they pass, and then they graduate or pass their graduation clean. Congratulations, you are fully part of one of the team members. And that's when it's like, okay, do you want your supplies, or where do we send your supplies? And when they receive them, they kind of take it from there, and that's when they get their full pay. I mean, their pay almost doubles from
Uh-huh.
training to a graduated cleaner, and plus they get their own supplies, and then I'll have to rely on half. So
That's awesome. That's pretty thorough.
it is, and it took a
Okay.
lot of refining,
Yeah.
to have that process. And it's another thing that's weird, that's completely ass backwards from any other company.
Uh-huh.
We don't even do their orientation and go over the handbook until after they pass their graduation clean.
Mm.
Yeah, most
Why is that?
I wasted a lot of money bringing in a lot of people, and because I pay them to be in orientation. They're taking time out of their day. This isn't free for me. I'm not going to waste their time. And I was paying so much money
Uh,
for people to show up, get a free check, be out the door, and never hear from them again. I
mhm.
was like, okay, well, you know what? That's when I turned the 2-week period, our training period, our still interview period, into you haven't really gotten the job. You haven't gotten the work. You're not part of the team yet officially. So after they pass, then it's more than worth it. Because at the very least, I already made my profit. So on a business aspect, I don't have a loss. From having this person that just completely just wasted everybody's time.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
That
I know
makes
it's weird backwards. I don't always
yeah.
go with the flow that what everyone does. So,
That makes a lot of sense though. Yeah, I can definitely see how you'd have a lot of time wasters
yeah.
just looking to get that quick check. All right, cool. That was a great part about hiring. And so now maybe if we can go into like sales a little bit, where are you guys finding most of your clients? Is there something working better than something else? What's the breakdown on that?
So we have a thing called the daily action strategy. And this is something that I had when I was a mortgage broker. And I just ended up applying it to the cleaning industry. It's kind of weird how I just kind of take things from my, that I had in my past life or past life, my, in my past in this lifetime and just ended up just picking out what works. So our daily action strategy, it's like 8 items. And I actually had a laminated paper. Believe it or not, we're still 90% Facebook groups. We have people that call from Google. It's a little minimal. I haven't, and that's because I haven't invested in SEO, and that is the next step in our growth. Just because we just had something that worked, so it
Yeah.
didn't cost anything. Matter of fact, it's like, yeah, we got great reviews. We're 5-star. We have a Google profile, but man, we don't. We show up on a second page on Google, so it's like, wow, you actually found us. That's crazy. But number one was Facebook groups. Number two is referrals. Number three is Google. We don't do any thumbtack. We don't we I advocate against these Angie's List, these lead providers. It's just
Yeah.
just don't. I'm sorry, Angie Leads and Thumbtack. If you're listening, it's just not ideal for them.
I swear that I think Angie's leads, like I think, or Angie's list, which is now Angie. I think they just
Yeah.
rebuy a lot of those leads from like other platforms because I'm pretty sure that what they do is they're like buying and selling leads in the back end.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yelp does it too. Are you kidding me?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's and I've spent the money. It's like they got their money out of me,
Yeah.
and
What's
it.
funny is like on Thumbtack, right? You'll have a lead and you'll have to pay like let's just say $40 for that lead. They're also sending that lead to like three, four, five other companies that are also paying like $40. So sometimes Thumbtack is making more money selling that lead than the actual company is off of the gross revenue of that service.
Yeah.
It's really crazy to think about.
There is
Yeah.
one. They're relatively new. I just wish they would get their act together. It's called Volt, VOOLT,
Okay.
and they're not bad. Their intentions are great and pure, but they're a bit pricey. They run a campaign on your behalf. Take your name, your number, your company name, or whoever name you want to put on there, and they distribute it across Meta ads and Google ads. And they can be a bit pricey. However, like, oh my gosh, in the beginning, it was so bad. I was getting leads from, I think it was Ohio. And I was like, what am I wasting this money on? Now they actually have a verification process, but they haven't really gotten down as far as, creating an ad where you actually have someone that's a motivated client. You get a lot of price shoppers, and it's just terrible, So, but it's like one thing at a time. Like I said, they're very new. I actually really respect their company, although they used to have like a whole one-on-one thing. Now it's like fall online to get service. But in any case, but back to your question though, our daily action strategy had to do with going, lining up groups, just being organized. Add 10 groups each day, and if you're in the metroplex, you'll be adding hundreds of groups. There's so many. If you're in a small town, it might be a little bit more difficult, but there are going to be groups. So, like, I'm in a smaller town and closer with Red Oak, Texas. We're outside of the Dallas area. Red Oak has two
And are
groups.
you added them to the business page or like your page or on Facebook? How does that work?
No, I put them in a spreadsheet.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, so it's just to keep me organized.
Got it.
And it also kind of lets me know where the sources where I'm getting the
Mhm.
most income from, and then I'm able to isolate. But that'll come later. And so each morning I would go into all of these groups, and I'll put a value post. I don't say, "Hey, we're double time cleaning. Call us at this number. We're great."
Yeah.
Everyone does that. They're just spamming groups, and a lot of the group admins, they end up taking it down. It's kind of ridiculous. It's like, you guys need to stop doing that. That's not the way to market. You know, and then people that end up being cheap on themselves. It's like, hey, we're cleaning houses for $50. I'm like, oh my gosh, no, that's just desperate. It's like that screams cheap. I'm new, don't know what I'm doing. It's horrible. So what I did is I created what's called value posts. I'll give one example because actually this one exact post in an Airbnb group got us so many clients. It was great. And it was me doing it out of frustration. That's how I found this out, creating value posts over advertising posts or spam posts. I was actually frustrated because we were taking over other cleaners for Airbnbs. And every time that we went in, we found the same common problems. Baseboards were built up, stuff under the crap, just under the bed, dust bunnies, just thick.
Hmm.
and stains on the linens or whatnot. So I went on there and I said something along the lines for you guys that own an Airbnb, obviously this is the number one thing that you need to have down other than listing it. This will make or break your business. Make sure that your cleaners are taking pictures underneath the beds. Make sure that they're doing this. It was like the top three things at the time that I was finding. The under the bed thing was the most memorable one because it's just, oh, we had to take beds from the wall and scrub. That's why I was so mad. And that thing got so many responses, and it was a value post. It's like, make sure you're watching out for this. Make sure you're doing this. Make sure you're doing this right. Make sure that your cleaners
Right.
are doing it. I wasn't soliciting business. I was giving advice. And it's like, man, that is a good idea. I'm gonna get with my cleaners about that. It's like, hey, do you do cleaning? And I was like, yeah, I own double time. Why? It's like, I want to talk. And I was like, oh, okay, let's talk. And I got client after client from that one post, probably a good extra $5,000 or $6,000 per month additional revenue from one post.
That's crazy. That's
Like,
awesome.
and then so I tried this again in a real estate investors group because at the time we were targeting more realtors, construction, things like that. We weren't really targeting residential yet. And, and it worked. Hey, it's like, hey guys, make sure that you're doing this after cleaning up after a painter, or something like that. And like a paint guy would be like, hey man, we actually just finished up a job. Are you available? I'm like, oh yeah. But creating those value posts and the daily action strategy takes anywhere between 15 minutes to up to an hour and onto the rest of the day. And really, when it gets to the point where it takes 45 minutes to an hour, it's because you're responding to a lot of people from the previous day. And that's a good sign. If it's taking you longer to do your DAS, man, you're doing great.
Mhm.
Your business is growing. And yeah, it got to the point where I was taking on calls and messages and stuff like that all throughout the day just by compounding, 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 so but yeah, that's how we ultimately. Oh, you mentioned sales. All right, I know I talk a lot. I'll be as brief as possible with the
Making
sales.
my job really easy. So keep going.
Okay, so when it comes to sales, ultimately people aren't really buying into your service, and they're buying into you. You're selling yourself before you're selling your service. And this is kind of like a common sales practice. You can have the best service in the world, but if you're a terrible person, they don't get along with you, you're not going to get it. The chances are that you're not going to get it. Sometimes you do. So when it comes to, because I do predominantly Airbnb, so I'm just gonna go with that. Number one, I congratulate them with their Airbnb. Me, I'm also a real estate investor, so I asked them, it's like, hey, what's your investment? Like, what do you think about the market? And then I start asking questions about themselves. It's funny. Did you ever get into watching The Office?
No, not really.
Okay, so this scene
Uh,
where they were trying to get the business from someone, and for those that watch The Office, you're gonna know exactly which one I'm talking about. And they go to Applebee's, and Janet, which is another character, she's like the senior to the general manager of Dunder Mifflin. They take somebody out, and she was like, "Okay, I want to go over numbers." And Steve Carell is just like, "Oh, right, look at these ribs. Do you like ribs?" And the guy was like, "Man, I love ribs." It's like, "I love my baby, 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 baby." And the guy's just like, "Yeah." So Steve Carell was every time that Janice would speak, she was like, "Okay, guys, we're having a great time, but I really want to know about the numbers. We want to go over the numbers." And the guy is about to pop up, to respond, and Steve Carell jumps in, he's like, blah, 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 just does something obnoxious.
right.
He's like, "So how are you about the onion blossoms?" And he's like, "Man, I love onion blossoms. Let's do it." And then as the night drags on, Janice is kind of like, and
Right.
Steve, is talking to the guy, and at this point, like they've become such good friends. And he's like, "So, I grew up here in this town, and I love it." He's like, "Yeah, I love it here too." And the guy was like, "I'll tell you what, we'll sign up. It's out of our budget, but we're gonna move some numbers around." And then Janet wakes up, she's like, "What the hell just happened?" you know,
Yeah.
and it's such a great scene. And but it really is true. It is a core value. People buy into you. So the more personable that you are, that's mostly, and you end up making a friend along the way.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of our clients, of my clients, we've become good friends. They've, throughout the past year, they always like, sent me, hey, praying for a quick recovery. We talk on Facebook, we talk on the phone. And you just end up with these solidified relationships, even the ones that end up not liking you in the future, they still respect you. And it's still kind of like, that's like kind of the first thing when it comes to doing the sales. And I know I was trying to keep it short. And then once you do that, I never just give out just the price, because the first thing that they ask, how much is going to be for this? And it's like, no, I understand that. Well, first, let me tell you, how our program works. I'm going to go over how our program works. I refuse to answer them. Now, if it gets to the point where it's like, okay, I can tell this is going to be a problematic client,
Yeah.
I actually just tell them straight up and hope they don't call back. I'm not even kidding. You're going to get to the point where you respect your business and yourself more than taking bad money, what I call bad money. It's like, if you have to put up with somebody's stress, anger, disrespect, it's not worth it. You have to
Mhm.
take pride in yourself in it. You have to know that you are quality work, you are a quality human being, you are a business owner, you're a difference maker, you're an employer. People have jobs and lives because of you. Once you start stooping down to the point where, there is such thing as, getting a bad client, just don't.
Yeah.
So, anyways, back to the process. Once they get to that part of the conversation, you give the value. Yes, it starts at the beginning, and it starts with our training program because we believe in training. It starts with our culture, the fact that we have such a low turnover rate. Our people stay for years. And then everything else, this is the type of equipment, blah, blah, blah. And this is
You're
our
building
process.
up the value so to
Exactly.
justify the price.
Yep. So
Right.
number one, sell yourself. Number two, sell your value. Number three, go ahead and give them the price and then wait.
Yeah.
And don't deviate from your prices. Just don't. It's like, oh, but we're gonna have 10 properties. Great. I have to pay people 10 times. You
Yeah.
know? So I mean that's completely understand, especially when they tell
Yeah.
me it's like, oh, we have like all this traffic in this property. And it's like, and then when they sign up, we might see that property 2 or 3 times in a month. So,
Mhm.
but in any case, it's like, don't deviate from your prices. We do have a volume discount. It's only 10%. Well, I say only, but that really adds up to a lot of savings, for property managers that have 10 properties and up. But that's about and of course, veterans, seniors, they receive discounts as well. We have those programs. First time clean is also 10% off, but the rest, I don't negotiate. Our price is our price.
Yeah.
Walk into Walmart or Best Buy, pick out a $800 TV. Hey, I'll give you 500 for it. That's not happening. So, but
Yeah. It's crazy, and it's a little sad too. Small business owners oftentimes, a lot of people feel like they just want to make the sale,
yeah.
and maybe they just need the money. But yeah, sometimes it's hard to do that, even though you should. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's why we just don't deviate, because at the same time you start insulting me and my crew, especially when the ones that are like, it's a $300 clean, it's a big house. It's like, we'll give you 150. It's like, you might as well just spit on my face,
Yeah.
because seriously, you think our time is just worth 150, and then none of them ever think that it's businesses have overhead. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, well, this equates to $75 an hour. It's like, yeah, that's right. It does. We also have to pay for insurance. We have to get paid to get bonded. We have to pay for supplies. We have to pay for, state taxes. We have to, I mean, the list goes on. Emergent
You have
service
to
fee.
pay money to find you too. It's like,
Right.
yeah,
Exactly. It's like, guys,
just
at the
talking
end
to
of
you
the
costs me money, you know?
Yeah. At the end of the day, you're $300 clean. I'm only walking away with like $30. Like,
Yeah.
just like to work on volume. Okay, a little more than that, but wouldn't sustain. But essentially, that's what it is. And this is a business. I mean, if you want to go out there and find your own people and give them supplies and get whatever and say, hey, go for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, never ever stoop down to the point where you had to like take pride in yourself is
Mhm.
basically what I would give the message to everyone. It's like, keep your prices, and not to mention the worst clients. And this is pretty much 90 to 95% of the time are the ones that try to go just cheap as possible.
Yeah.
I am telling you, if you have a $200 clean and the guy wants to give you $80 and you decide to take $80, he's gonna inspect the crap out of you. Like,
Yeah.
he's gonna nitpick or he or she, or whatever. And for Airbnbs, they are the biggest time wasters, the biggest whiners, the ones that you end up firing anyways because it's just too stressful for too little money. And it's just, you really have to respect yourself, your business, time, your team's pay, and everything. So it's crazy. Cheap clients
Yeah.
are always the worst.
If somebody asks for a discount, it's a red flag. you're almost guaranteed to have issues later on with them. They're almost always going to complain about something. They're going to try to get a bigger discount or get a refund or something like that. They don't understand the value of and what it takes for someone else to actually do that work, right? And they don't value that person, they don't value the company. And my best clients are the complete opposite. They want a
Yes,
tip, they don't care about the price, they just want a good job. They want great people to be in their house and do well by them. And they're not looking for just saving a little bit of money. Like that's not the value for them.
correct. You're absolutely
So
right.
you're doing quite a bit of Airbnbs. Would you have any advice on people who, are thinking about either starting a company or they have an existing residential cleaning company and maybe venturing into the Airbnb space? Like, is it a lot more difficult? Is it worthwhile? Is it a volume game? Like, can you just give a little bit about it?
I'm glad you asked. I have so many people that ask me why Airbnb is over residential, and
Yeah.
yeah, there's plus and positives and negatives to both. The way that I saw it was, I originally did not have plans to do Airbnbs. Matter of fact, that wasn't even in the picture. It was just like we started off with residentials, and the daily action strategy has kind of changed. It went to more like local groups where I was placing those ads until I switched to Airbnb. Then I went to investor groups. Anyways, going back to the question though. Airbnbs, you 1000% need ConvertLabs, number one. You cannot go off of paper, what else do people use for CR? Oh, spreadsheets. No,
Yeah.
you absolutely need a good system. It is chaotic.
And
Um,
we have a iCal integration with Airbnb specifically. So when there's a reservation on Airbnb, it will generate a booking inside of ConvertLabs for that cleaning, and it'll pre-save everything on there. You don't. It's like really plug and play. You don't really have to do anything. So as soon as people are booking on Airbnbs for that property, it'll book a cleaning inside of ConvertLabs. Very simple.
yeah, I can't wait. I'm gonna have to step back into my company to get back into this. So
Yeah.
because it's new. I remember when you were developing that,
Yeah.
Matter of fact, wasn't I the one that told you about the iCal link?
Might have been. It might have been, but we've been working with a couple companies on it to kind of
Okay.
refine, certain workflows and stuff. But yeah,
So in any case, yeah, having a system like that is there is no ifs and buts about it. It's a must have.
yeah,
Trying to do it off of like Google Calendar and all that stuff.
yeah.
We
And the thing too
blatantly
is like, bookings get canceled or reservation dates move, and our system will automatically do that. But unless you're like really monitoring that every day, before you go and do those cleanings, it's really hard to kind of manage that.
It is. So here's what happened. We were doing residential, and I was observing. I was like, man, we only see this house like once, twice, or four times a month. Very rarely were people asking for weekly cleans. It was always either bi-weekly or monthly. Monthly was the most frequent one that we had. Is it stable? Yeah, it is. Can you still lose clients? 100%.
Yeah.
Especially when I don't know, job loss or whatever the case might be, or something happened with their spouse or something. But so it's definitely not prone to losing the business. When we first got our first Airbnb, we visited that house 8 times that month. And when that happened, I was like, I have no idea why I'm pursuing residential. I'm going to see that house once or twice a month. And this one I saw like 8 times. During the slow season, I still see it minimum of 4 times. It's always going to be every weekend. And not to mention, it's like after every 30-day stay, we do a deep clean. Now I'm charging, even if I see it at least less frequently, I'm making more revenue off that one clean.
Hmm.
This is almost like to the point of move out prices. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to Airbnbs. It's like I will figure this system out because you got people that have same day check-ins, you got sudden changes in schedule, cancellations, extensions. It's just like, but so we created, and I mentioned earlier, it's like I'm all about systems, process flows, SOPs. So I adjusted, I pivoted, to adjusting the SOPs and everything. And it came over time. We didn't, I'm not going to say perfected, I almost did. We didn't get to this point where we had the systems and SOPs that we have now without, I think it was probably 2,000 turnovers. We're at almost 8,000 now. It took a lot. It took a long time. It took a lot of trial and error. Every time that there was a complaint, we have basically a 99.99999% success rate. Actually, I say that because it was popped up on my memories. We missed our first and only same day check in ever. And it took that to happen for me to redefine, all I had to do is basically add one more step.
Uh,
How our system management worked. Was it 3 years ago? Damn, it just popped up. Sorry, but I want to say it was 3 years ago. Actually, it was, and it wasn't really an Airbnb. It was a bed and breakfast, but they operated the same way, and they did the list on Airbnb. But yeah, and we never had one again. Thousands and thousands of cleaning jobs later, we still haven't had a mishap in it. So it does take quite a bit. You do have to have a system. You have to have a great software in order for that to have, a good flow. And yes, volume definitely makes up a lot. I mean, we literally get hundreds of cleans a month from Airbnbs. It's just because they are the fact that they are Airbnb short-term rentals.
so is your profit for each of them on average less than like a regular residential clean?
Yes, I will definitely say that you're basically paying for what we call it a mini deep clean because you're doing all the items of a mini deep clean for a, well, we don't want to say heavily discounted amount. And well, the reason being is because that house was visited literally just a few days ago. It
Mhm.
got cleaned by one of our team members literally days ago. And there are times where we do upcharge. If somebody had a party, things got really egregious, God forbid they use glitter. I have nightmares about that. It was what we took us like 3 days. But, yeah, the glitters and it still, like, doesn't get 100% of anything. Just looks like a unicorn exploded in there. It's crazy. Anyways, there is upcharges like pet hair, things like that, things of that nature. It's definitely more than worth it. It's like thinking it's like, "Okay, do I wanna make, 45% profit off of something like this, or can I take a 10% profit and literally have it 10 times more,
Mhm.
for marginal less amount?"
Yeah.
Not to mention the cleaners are in and out of there quick because, like I said, there's no buildup anymore. These baseboards just got wiped, the ceiling fans just got dusted a few days ago. There's no
Right.
buildup, so it's quick compared to a residential.
Right. And there's nobody there. So,
And there's no one there.
yeah.
If anything, they were there for 3 days. A lot of
Yeah.
these stays are about 3 days long.
Cool. Well, we went over hiring, we went over sales, we went over Airbnb a little bit. Anything else you want to mention before we kind of wrap this up? Because it's already been an hour.
Oh,
Uh,
jeez. Hey, time flies when you're having fun. Uh, yes. So the main thing is consistency. It's you can do this the smallest thing. One of my favorite books is called Atomic Habits, and the compound effect. Just even if you're just getting started or if you're frustrated and stuck being a solo cleaner and you're trying to scale and grow and just doesn't seem, if you just do, like, for instance, I mentioned our daily actions, right? If you just do like these small steps each and every single day and stay consistent each and every single day, you will grow. It's not a if you're going to grow, it's when you grow.
yeah.
To make sure you take accountability for your own actions. You cannot sit there and oh, the economy's like this, the market's like that. Oh, but this person that, no, there's always an accountability factor. We started things up, after COVID, and we still ended up becoming a 5-figure company within the 3 months. It's
Mhm.
not difficult, but it is consistent and just stay dedicated.
I think I said this on another episode, maybe with Vic and Jen, but we had a large group of people sign up to ConvertLabs and go through our program in like 2021, 2020 as well. And a lot of people just quit because they were scared of like COVID and all that stuff. But the few people that, and it was only really like 10% that stuck through it, like they all now have large companies,
Yeah.
all of them, and it's amazing how much, your self doubt and also just not keeping it going. You can't win with that, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
And you are going to have bad days. You're gonna have bad weeks. You're gonna have bad months. It's not.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
There's, there's definitely those days where it feels like everything is just falling apart.
The Murphy days. I call them the Murphy days.
It's just horrible. And then there's other days where it's like, I'm going to be rich. You know what I mean? Like, let me look at my dream car, spend 15 minutes doing that. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, there's definitely those highs and lows for sure. I just want to say thank you so much for being on here. It's been a great hour, and we wish you, great health going forward. I'm glad you're doing a lot better, man. Yeah,
Thank you. Oh, I can't tell you how it's just like I'm free to the world again.
yeah,
Once the doctor was telling me, it's okay, you're good to lift over 20 pounds. I was like, You can drive again.
Yeah.
I'm free. But yeah, I appreciate that a lot. It's definitely been a journey, and I definitely had people that were kind of worried about not just for my well being, but like how the quality of life was, and just having the cleaning company that I have is just it was a godsend. It was just literally saved my life,
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Did all of the problems in business seem small? When you were in the hospital or something, you're like,
Uh, when I was in the well, it kinda did, but that at that point, especially the first ti not the first time, because that was double time was only a few weeks old by then.
yeah,
But, when I delegated everything and basically retiring myself, I was just like, "Wow, I really built something." Like, this went without me. Nobody was asking me about payroll, no one was asking me what to do about this client. Like, they had an answer for just about everything. I was there just to
yeah,
check the numbers. It's like, "Hey, where are we at for this month?"
yeah.
And of course, I expressed the gratitude. I gave them, gave the team bonuses. Thank you so much. You guys have been doing great. But yeah, it was an eye opener.
Mhm.
It really was.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much why.
Well, if anybody wants to, get in touch with you or hear more, you have your own podcast too, right? Where can people find that?
There it is, the real
Yeah.
biz or the Biz Rise Effect. You can find it on YouTube. We are new, and it's kind of funny with the original videos. You can see the quality. I didn't have the mic and everything. It was so funny.
Yeah.
But in any case, so bear with us. We only have a few episodes up. We're still figuring out our right intro. The original introduction that I had, I didn't have a video editor. It's so cringe that I'm just gonna look back and laugh one day. You guys can laugh now. Go for it. I'm not gonna be hurt. But if you want to reach out to me directly or me or my team, therealbizrisecoaching@gmail.com. Yes, we are still using a Gmail. So that's how new this is. You can always reach out to me. You can always ask questions. I'll be more than happy to help.
Cool. Well, thanks again, Chris. And yeah, if you haven't started your own cleaning company yet and you're interested in doing that, you can sign up at convertlabs.io. And then you can reach out to me, Kevin at convertlabs.io, if you just want to chat or need help with anything at all. So thanks again, Chris. And thanks everybody for watching.
Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.